Commission and meeting for Thursday, October 8th, 2020. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any public comments this morning? There being none. Can I get a motion for the meeting minutes?
Move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Extension request. Major site plan number 05-16-08-888-C, Mears Point Associates. Raising a mixed-use development with 211 apartments, requesting an extension.
Good morning.
Morning.
Joseph Stevens on behalf of Safe Harbor Marina. I'll explain that in a second. I explained it, I think, in March when we came here. Tommy Davis, project engineer, Jeremy Rose with Safe Harbor Marine Corporation. As we were here in March, and you granted us an extension till now. And in March, Safe Harbor Marina had just purchased the Mears Point Marina property, and they actually purchased the Great Oak Landing in Kent County as well.
I'm sorry, can you talk louder?
Oh, I'm sorry, and they also purchased the Great Oak, that works. They also purchased the Great Oak, I'm gonna put this down if that's okay. Thank you. They also purchased the Great Oak Landing Marina in Kent County. They had acquired all the rights of Mears, meaning to the site plan and to the work that had been done. And Mears had just, in fact, signed a public works agreement with the county and paid a non-refundable deposit for sewer and water of some $140,000+. So the plan was for Safe Harbor to take that 6 months to bring in or try to bring in a development partner for the apartments, which we had indicated, which is what Mears had been working on for quite some time, and then come back to you after that 6-month period and report to you as to where they are. Also during that 6-month period, they had their second non-refundable sewer and water deposit due, and I presented that to you. I gave you copies of the public works agreement. They had it due in September. Well, I know you've heard this before, but the pandemic happened, and they literally weren't able to bring people down to the site. Their whole efforts to bring in a development partner were stopped for that period of time. We went to the county commissioners in September and asked them if they would grant us a 6-month extension to pay that second deposit, non-refundable deposit, and they agreed. They granted that extension, so that non-refundable deposit will come due in March now of 2021. We're asking for an extension till April of 2021. You know, if they're still evaluating, I mean, they've only owned the site since January, and we would report back to you in April, have they paid the deposit? Obviously, if they haven't, then they're not moving forward with the project. If they have paid another $150,000+, then they are moving forward, and we'll give you a more detailed report at that time. So that's what we're asking for, is a 6-month extension. I have Mr. Davis here if you have any questions on the engineering side. It's been fully engineered, obviously, received conditional site plan approval, and I have, as I said, Jeremy Rose here, who's with Safe Harbor, and he's the actual person down at Kent Narrows right now.
Okay, any questions? Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the extension request for major site plan 05-16-08-0008C.
Any second? Eddie Baker, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you all.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm going to stay up. I'm just going to say about it, Jeremy. I'll give you a call.
You just like hanging out with us, huh?
Like, where's it going?
All right, we have, next on the agenda is new concept plan, SP number 20-07-0059, Postal Road LLC. south side of Postal Road, Chester, Maryland. Proposing to administratively combine 6 parcels in order to construct 2 3-story, 30-unit residential apartment buildings with an 880 square foot utility building and the associated parking areas. The applicant is requesting a parking reduction of 5 spaces, increased density up to 20 units per acre in accordance with the conditions of paragraph 18(1-28D) 2A, I think that's a 1F, and concept plan approval. DMS and Associates, LLC, and Rob Gunter. Is Rob here?
I'm pinch hitting for Rob Gunther this morning. He is out of the office, and I've been affiliated with this project through the historic review.
Amy, can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry. This is Amy Mordock, Acting Director, Planning and Zoning. Pinch hitting for Rob Gunter, our Principal Development Review Planner. So you've given a summary of this proposal, and I'll walk you through some of the site plan details, and then I'll hand the presentation over to the applicant and his team. But the pertinent facts today are that you're looking at this conceptual site plan in order to evaluate the request for the increase in density per the conditions of the code 18(1)28D2A1F, and also entertain a request for a parking reduction so that the applicant may proceed with the next level of site plan review. So if you, I'll direct your attention to the site plan and its location in Chester on Postal Road.
Amy, can I hand these out really quickly just so they have something to look at?
Sure.
They're just renderings and.
They may have received that. Did they receive that in their packet? No.
Ready in time.
As long as you give one to John for the record, that'll be great.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. As you'll see on the aerial image, there are 6 parcels involved in this redevelopment project. All will be combined into one 3-acre lot. There are multiple structures. All will be demolished other than the dwelling that currently sits on Cox Neck Road. That dwelling will be redeveloped and will remain a rental property. And the homes that you see on parcels 13A, 14, 15, and 17 will be demolished. 3 of those parcels to be demolished are listed in the historic district as contributing structures. The house that is located on Cox Neck Road is also listed as a contributing structure in the historic district, but that structure will not be demolished, it will be renovated. And our heritage partners have thoroughly reviewed these structures and have coordinated with the applicant on the site visits and the documentation of these structures. They have no objection to the demolition of these dwellings.
I'm sorry, Ms. Mordock, before you go too much farther, can you please explain or at least expand upon the use of the historic term that's new to me?
Sure.
That's a contributing structure versus a historic structure?
In the, and I'm going to pull out the memo, you received the memorandum to the Heritage Partners for Historic Review, and you'll note that this area is included in the Postal Road, Cox Neck Road Survey District, which is a Maryland-listed historic district, number QA 587. There are 31 resources in that district, and 21 of those are contributing structures, which means that they are iconic structures representing some facet of culture or architectural style specific to this district. So these are structures that are contributing, and in this case, I believe these are contributing structures due to their placement along Postal Road as Main Street structures, contributing to the history of that neighborhood, and namely the way they were used in that neighborhood. And now I'm speaking a little from my memory, but when I reviewed this district, many of these homes were homes of watermen who were working in the area and were built for that purpose.
Thank you.
So you'll see the area is zoned town center, and it is located within the Stevensville-Chester growth area, served by public water and sewer. And again, here is, you see the hatched green area on this map, and this is the Maryland Inventory of Historic Properties. This is the district that we were just discussing. These are the contributing parcels highlighted, and as I summarized a few minutes ago, parcel 10 is being redeveloped, and the other parcels will be, renovated, while the other parcels will be redeveloped entirely. Here are the existing conditions, looking east and looking west on Postal Road. Here is your redevelopment concept plan. You'll see that an accessory structure is proposed directly behind the dwelling, which will be renovated, and on the combined lots where the remaining structures are to be demolished, you'll see two proposed apartment buildings. What the applicant is requesting is that the density for the apartment development be permitted at 20 units per acre in accordance with the standards that I will let the applicant address in terms of whether they've met those standards. Again, the property is served by public water and sewer. Staff finds that conceptually the design standards have been met. There's also a parking reduction request. There are 108 spaces required, and 103 have been provided. Staff does not have a problem with the reduction for various reasons, which the applicant will outline, but one of the reasons is that our parking standards are often a little on the high side, and it's advantageous to reduce as much impervious cover on the property as possible. There's a woodland clearing proposed, and there is a forest conservation requirement affiliated with this site redevelopment, which has been met conceptually. There's no disturbance to non-tidal wetlands on the property. There are no rare, threatened, and endangered species located on the property, and stormwater will be addressed and reviewed as we move forward, but has not been reviewed conceptually. Here is a landscape plan. An elevation from Postal Road, which I think is in your packet that was just distributed to you. Elevations from the parking lot and side elevations. And finally, here is an image of a very similar, if not, pretty close to the development that is just a mile and a half west on Shamrock Road.
Promenade, right?
Yes. Is that what it's called, the promenade?
Yes.
Yep, okay. And I will now defer to Tom to go into greater detail.
Thank you. Tom Davis with DMS and Associates, working with the DiDonato family of Postal Road LLC. As Amy had indicated, it has acquired these 6 parcels and is proposing to administratively combine them into one 3.08 acre parcel, which is zoned town center. The site's not located in the critical area. There was a small pocket of non-tidal wetlands on the parcel located to the further east, and we're not impacting those. That'll be retained in a forest conservation area. As Amy had indicated, we are requesting a bonus density up to 20 DUs per acre, where the code permits by right 10 DUs per acre. And we have met all of the requirements for that bonus density request. We had a community meeting, notified all adjacent landowners. We had 2 landowners come to the meeting. We met with them and have modified the plan to address the concerns of Mr. Alder, who owns the property immediately to the south, and Mr. Lamb, by enclosing and proposing a fenced area to keep the patrons from this facility from migrating onto their property on the south side. And then the Lambs had requested some additional landscaping, which we've incorporated into the plan. The architectural style, as was indicated, is very similar to the building that the developers constructed down like a mile and a half away at the promenade. And we believe that we have met all those test requirements for the bonus density, one of which is that these be workforce housing units, and Jim can explain, and Victoria can explain that aspect of it a little better than I can. And then the other request that we're asking for is a reduction in parking from 108 down to 103 by 5 spaces. And again, using the promenade as an example, they did a parking study over a couple 3-week time period and showed that the parking demand for this similar mix of 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, justifies a slight reduction in the parking proposed on the property. Stormwater management will be addressed in the form of bioretention systems in and around the parking area and out in front of the building there on Postal Road. Very similar to the photo that we just saw there at the promenade. We had some bioretention areas that treat rooftop runoff. Ultimately, all the drainage will drain out to Postal Road, which has a closed storm drain system that was installed by the state of Maryland probably 25 or 30 years ago when the county took Postal Road over from a state road, which if you go back to one of the arrows, that used to be Main Street, and you can kind of see where it used to go all the way across Route 50. So when 50 came through there, Postal Road, old Maryland 18 was kind of bisected and cut off. So the whole area has kind of changed from the single-family house description that Amy had provided into more of a commercial area, and we think that this development will fit in with the area. It'll provide residential development in the area to support some of the commercial businesses that are across the street, the Baker's Liquor Store, the Rainbow Plaza, and other developments, along Postal Road. So,
this is an MPDU obligation?
Yeah, Jim and Victoria have all that information. I'd rather defer that to them. So, but if you have any questions about the site development plan, that's my area of expertise. The housing part of it, that's theirs. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have on that.
Any questions? Okay.
Sort of a lease agreement that needs to be terminated for the eastern end of what really is Baker's parking lot? You can see the parking lot sort of extends.
Yeah, our clients have purchased that parking lot in fee simple, and there was no lease put or agreement.
Just sort of spilled over there over the years. Yeah. Okay.
Jim, I wasn't involved in the negotiations with the land purchase agreement, so Jim and Victoria can explain that as well as any issues with the housing.
I'd like to give you a little bit more information about the product.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Jim DiDonato. So I'll give you a little bit more detail, and then Victoria can explain to you the MPDUs and the workforce housing and the numbers there. But basically, what we're proposing is 2 30-unit apartment buildings. In context, the building that was shown on at the promenade is 42 units. So this building is a little bit smaller. We went with 3 stories as opposed to 4 because of just the scaling of the building up on Postal Road. We thought that bringing it down to 3 stories would bring the massing down. But basically, other than the two buildings, each will have 30. The mix for the overall will be 24 one-bedroom apartments, 30 two-bedroom apartments, and 6 three-bedroom apartments. As Chris mentioned, because we're over 25 units, 10% of the apartments will be qualify as MPDUs. We work in conjunction with the Queen Anne's County Housing Authority to I guess, administer those to tenants in that project. I mean, that has worked pretty well for us at the Promenade, so we don't expect that there'll be any issues. And there also is a need for that. As Tom said, we're centrally located on Kent Island. What's nice about this site is that it's got easy access to and from Route 50 because it's pretty close to an intersection right there. There's an integral sidewalk that goes down Chester that we will tie into and also repair in front of the properties that I believe goes all the way down to Cox Neck Road and runs all the way through I think the 552, right? And then also from there. So it does have pretty good walking connectivity. It's also within walking distance to retail, restaurants, the post office, Baker's Liquors, and then also several churches in the area. One of the reasons that we're asking for the bonus is to get to 60 units is, number one, there's a need for it. And number two, it allows us to get to a number where we can provide on-site management and on-site maintenance, which we feel is really critical. One of the successes of the Promenade is because we have enough units there, we have a permanent on-site manager and assistant, and we also have a permanent maintenance individual who takes care of any tenant issues, clogged toilets, any other issue, and also helps with the security of the property. A couple of apartment features. One of the new things that we had to retrofit at the Promenade is that we will have an on-site package delivery room, which, because people get so many packages now in the mail, and we started having an issue with theft and maintenance of packages. So now what we do is we have a room that there's a code that the like FedEx, UPS, and whoever else, post office, gets a number to, and they plug in the number, deliver the package. Once they plug in that number through the little device, it sends a text code to the tenant and that tenant can access the room via that code to get in. Because if they enter the code wrong, it gets kicked out and has to start over. But I guess it's just a sign of the times. But we're going to do that. The floor plans are open, and it's going to be very energy efficient construction, which is going to help keep the utility costs down. Secure access. And the other thing is we include laundry rooms with washers and dryers in every unit, which is really people like that. As far as the need goes, in the 2010 Queen Anne's County Comprehensive Plan, they identified, and I know we're going through one now on the starting, is that they identified a shortage in quality, affordable workforce housing. Since 2010, it's been 10 years, there's only been a few projects that have been developed in the rental segment for that. Ours is one of them. There may be another one, but I'm not sure. But there has not been a lot of apartments. The ones, because Slipper Hill, but still none of that has met the shortage. We talked to Mike Clark and Ann at the housing, and they're in the process of doing another census study now. But they said the demand has not been met, and that they still need quality, affordable housing. And we could tell you by the rent, the vacancy rate that we have, that there just is not enough housing options for people out there. Again, quality rental options. Some information from the census just to kind of show you where Queen Anne's County falls with the state. The state of Maryland has an average of 30, when you look at all the counties, an average of 33% of the housing in the state of Maryland are rental properties. They'd be apartments or rental houses. Talbot County has 27.9. Queen Anne's County has 17. So we're just about, just almost half of what the state of Maryland has as an average. Percentage of homes that are available for rent. So you can see that we're well and I use Talbot County because they're an adjacent county. And of course, we think it's important when we look at the mix of the people that are renting at the Promenade, and this will be pretty much, we'll go after the same buyer. I mean, it's the first responders, their teachers. There's just a mix of people. So it's important. Victoria, I can hand off to you if you want to talk about what the definition of workforce housing in and MPDU and the economic benefit.
Okay.
Trap up here. Victoria Hoffman, thanks for having us today. So I would start by saying, so Jim touched on the need for units. But the other issue is affordability. And we've seen market rate apartments out there that are essentially, the rent is what the market will bear, right? And that is largely what the promenade is. But what we've talked about, what you've heard about is workforce housing, and you've heard about moderately priced units. So I want to go through those two things. Workforce housing is, and I'll read you this definition just because it's so broad, it's sort of undefined, I guess, in many places. But the Urban Land Institute defines workforce housing as housing that is affordable to households earning 60 to 120% of the area median income. And then it's further defined affordable if the housing costs are no more than 30 to 40% of income. So using those two metrics, I wanted to go through what that means for Queen Anne's County. So Queen Anne's County's median household income is relatively high. It's $89,000 approximately per year. So if you take the first metric, which is the workforce portion of that, that would be 60% to 120% of that median household income, which equates to $53,000 to $107,000. And then you have to look at what would be affordable to those households and what that range is. So 30% of those numbers that I just read you equate to $16,000 to $32,000 a year that can be spent on housing. And if you further break those numbers down to monthly rents, that equates to $1,339 on the low end to $2,677 on the high end, which is high, as we see. So our units as a market rate rent are going to be pretty much at the bottom of those rents. Our starting rents now at the Promenade, we started slightly lower, but they've gone up just a little with cost. $1,200, $1,250, they go up to about 16 or 17 there. They do have more amenities than this property is going to have. So our rents here are probably going to be $100 less a month or so. We've had our management company look at them and say, what are these amenities valued at? And if we take them away, what does this mean from a marketability standpoint? And they gave us those debits, so to speak, deductions from the rents. And so our rents are going to be starting at the bottom end of the affordable bracket. And they're not going to get anywhere. They're probably not even going to reach the 50% mark of this affordable monthly rent. So we are very confident that even our market rents are going to fall in the lower half of the what's considered affordable workforce housing in Queen Anne's County. So that being said, that would be all the units. As a result of our density, we are also required to provide 10% of moderately priced dwelling units, and that rent is calculated differently. So I would like to explain that to you as well. Mpdu's, it's a federal program monitored by the state, isn't it? Or state program? It's a state?
Local. It's local.
But it's based on a certain geographic area. Our geographic area is the Baltimore metropolitan.
Oh, for pricing.
For pricing, yes. So I'm sorry, I probably misstated. Yeah. And it's based on the Baltimore metropolitan HUD rents. Every year in the fall, the HUD publishes what they consider their HUD rents. This year, for next year, those rents are, for example, excuse me, I have this printed. I'm sorry, my copy's got out of sort here.
Okay.
This year, for 2021, for example, the HUD rent for a one-bedroom unit is $1,115 a month. So it's so lower already than our starting market rent, and then a percentage of that is taken. So they're generally 30 to 40% lower than market rents is where the Mpdu rents come. And we estimate that's going to be somewhere around $800 a month or so for a one-bedroom, and between $900 and $1,000 for a two-bedroom, depending on where those HUD rents fall. They change every year, so each November we get them. They go into place on February 1st or April 1st of the next year. And any new Mpdu leases being signed in that year period are at that rent rate. No matter what our market rates are, they're irrelevant. And it should be noted that the quality of the units...
10%?
10% of the units. So we will be providing 6 Mpdu units here. Just sort of in context, we have 14 existing Mpdu units now. When we first built the Promenade, there had never been an MPDU rental unit put into service in Queen Anne's County. This program was written into the code but never fully executed. So there was a lot of good intention, but the inability, there was just never a way to get to the end. So when we had this opportunity and we knew we had to provide this type of housing, we used, with the help of our management company and with, in cooperation with the housing department, we went to other counties to find out how do they facilitate their programs and how do they work, timing of things, and how those programs are implemented. So we worked with the housing department of Queen Anne's County, and the first written MPDU policies went into place. There are lease amendments that have to be incorporated into MPDU leases. So they take our lease and they amend them with certain criteria for their MPDU program. A candidate has to go first to Queen Anne's County and get qualified for the county program based on income and whatever their other criteria might be. And once they are approved from the county, then only then can they come to us and lease an MPDU unit. So in conjunction with the housing department, and I'll be honest with you, when we rolled it out, I was a little concerned. Were these units going to stay vacant? Were we going to be required to keep them off the market and available and no one leased them? But I have to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. The county immediately filled all of the spots, and I can confidently say that I don't think a unit has sat more than 30 to 60 days in between turnovers. There is so much need, and they are so in touch with who needs what, that the program's been hugely successful, in my opinion. So we've already put 14 units into place. This would provide another 6 units. I'm not sure if any apartments have MPDUs yet? No?
You're it.
So,
Now it applies to commercial apartments.
Well, there's a lot of.
right, so now it applies to commercial apartments as well. So we're really pleased about the program, and as initially a skeptic of the procedural part of it, I was pleasantly surprised. And they have been very good to work with, very fast, and they are in constant communication with the management on site. Even tenants that we have currently in a market rate that qualify for an MPDU, we've actually taken people from market rate apartments and allowed them to renew as an MPDU unit, so that, and not even move their unit, but just because we've been allowed to be so fluid, to make sure that we're doing the best by our residents that need it. So,
Remind the planning commission what my memory is, it's no more than 80% of median?
it depends on the level of included services. So 65 to 80% of the HUD rent is what that ends up being.
For tenants to qualify, they can't earn more, my memory.
I'm not sure what their qualifying incomes are.
80% of the median income.
Yeah, I don't want to speak to that. I'm not sure. It is different. So one other thing that's important to I guess, mention, when we first did the promenade, we did some studies of where do the rents exist in the county now. And there was a huge band of unserved rents. You had the very low subsidized housing rents of $400. And then you had individual houses that were being rented, like let's say in Queens Landing, for $1,300, $1,400. And there was nothing in between, very little in between. So between our market rents slotting in under where the, let's say, single-family rental would go, the moderately priced units sort of fill in the band just below that. And the tax credit housing fills in that lower band. So Slippery Hill brings in more of the lower priced, and those rents are, I don't want to misquote them, $400 to $600, let's say, a month. The MPDU units are going to slot in above those with then your market rents coming up. And so I think we now have a nice tiered inventory of units that we never had before. We just simply never had them. And Jim spoke to the vacancy. I mean, we're essentially full all the time. There's periods of the year where we have more turnover just because of timing of leases, but we're doing, we're really pleased with that. So we are very confident that they'll be able to.
90% or 85% or?
95% or better.
Oh, great.
All the time.
That's terrific.
Yeah. So it's been, we're trying to turn units quickly, and that's gone well. So we'll be adding an additional 6 moderately priced units in the community, in the county. That'll bring it to 20. And that's a start, 20 is 20 more than we didn't have 10 years ago. So we're really pleased about that.
Any questions?
I have one for Mrs. Hoffman. First of all, thank you very much for your very thorough explanation of all of those acronyms. We hear them, but probably not enough to, at least in my mind, to stick all the time. Of those 6 MPDU units, how do you see those breaking out for the 1, 2, and 3 bedroom offerings?
So typically, it'll likely be 1 and 2 bedroom We haven't heard of a need for larger, and when you get into the larger units, there's so many housing options for families, meaning with more bedrooms and so forth, and more appropriate for a family with children, that will probably keep those six three-bedroom units here for the market need. However, we initially started with one bedrooms at the Promenade, but the housing department gave us some feedback that there were some residents who needed two. And so they allowed us to just sort of jockey those around. So now it's really as needed.
So that's the fluidity that you discussed
Yes.
earlier, that you're not locked in.
Right. So because we had
Darn it,
said,
I'd like to rent to you, but I can't because
Right.
this unit.
this isn't
Got
that.
it.
Right. So now we can't throw someone out and put someone in, but as soon as the next one comes up, what we'll do is give direction to say, hey, housing's saying we've got someone coming in the queue who needs two. Do we have any twos moving out that we can fold in? And we'll just reassign that unit number as an MPDU rather than having a static number or static unit number that never changes and doesn't always fit the need. We're trying to be as accommodating as we can with them. And the feedback from the housing department's been great.
What's
as
the
well.
typical size of your one bedroom and two bedroom?
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can. We're family, so I already sneezed on it before I came in.
Really?
He used to lick the cookies and stuff, so I wouldn't eat them.
All right, so the one bedroom, the one bedrooms are roughly 800 square feet. The two bedrooms are about 1,050, and the three bedrooms are about 1,250. So I think one of the things, if I could jump in on the fluidity, is that when we first developed the program with the county, we said, we don't build any of the units any different. So we're not building like a nice quality unit and then like an inferior unit to rent as an MPDU. We built them all the same. So when somebody moves into an MPDU, that does not look any different than any other unit that we would have in the building. So they're all the same. We have had, and Chris is right there, and we don't know what the percentage is, but let's say it's 80%. We have had individuals who have qualified for an MPDU, and they have to re-qualify every year. It's not like you move into an MPDU and then you can stay as long as you want to. Every year they have to re-qualify their income level with the housing department. And we have had those individuals who have priced or who have made enough money where they have to move out of an MPDU. And we have had some, and where the fluidity comes in is we don't want to actually, so in this, we'll have 6 units. More than likely we'll have 3 and 3 in each building, but maybe at some time we'll have 4 and 2. We don't want to push them all in one building, but what happens is that if we have a tenant that no longer qualifies for an MPDU and they move up to a market rate, well, we'll just take, say, the next vacancy and we'll make that comes available, we'll make that an MPDU. So we don't have to actually have that person move out of that unit, move to another unit. And, like I said, we've had some individuals who have moved in who we only have a market rate apartment available, but they do qualify for an MPDU, and when one comes up or when we have a vacancy, we will then adjust their rent and they can stay in their unit. And what's interesting about the MPDU renter is it's not again, it just sounds terrible, but you can't really tell the difference. You can't tell the difference between you or the people because a lot of them some are school teachers, some of them are just right out of college, some might be a first responder. I mean, you just don't. So there really is no. The one thing that we are able to do is though they still have to meet our criteria. We still have a very stringent criteria of like criminal background check and this and that, and they have to still meet all of our other rental standards. So really the MPDU gives them, based on HUD, you have to, Fair Housing Act, but it has to, be treated the same. This gives the MPDU a lower threshold of income to qualify for.
That's the only threshold.
It's the only threshold that's different. Everything else is the same.
Okay.
And I do want to say, sometimes, and just so there's no confusion, people throw around tax credit and MPDUs, and then you do get this stigma like it's bad. And it really isn't. I mean, people need these affordable options. So, we clearly don't make the rent on them, but the need in the community is great enough that it's necessary in the community. And as stewards of the community that we live here, we want people to have those. So I just want to be clear that, really it is, this is for everybody needs. And people fall in and out of hardships too, and they fall in and out of the ability to live maybe where they are, and this gives them an option to stay where they are, but still be able to afford where they are. Did you have any other questions?
This isn't relevant to what I'm just curious. Has there been much non-payment of rent in the last 8 or 9 months, and you haven't been able to kick people out because of COVID? Or are people still paying?
I have to say, and I will say this, As a business owner, I am so impressed with the programs that came out, both for the ones that saved businesses and the ability for them to keep people employed, and the different loan programs and so forth that everyone had, and for the CARES Act that got money into people's pockets when they needed it. We have not really had that need. People have been paying the rent. We were a little worried about that, but most people have paid. And I think most people want to pay, want to pay for their obligations. So I really just think that we were set up for success in this situation. We really were. I have to say, as a business person, I can tell you we were afforded what we needed in order to help the people who needed our help. And it is rare to be able to say that about a sweeping government bill, but it was helpful and necessary, and it helped for the residents too. I mean, you can tell. We were really, really pleased with that, so we haven't had that issue.
Good. Okay, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you wanted to share Chairman Reese's comments about the concept?
Sure, we can do that.
Want me to go ahead and read that section?
Sure.
Okay. We received a few points about this concept plan from our chairman, who noted that the concept plan appears nice. However, the added traffic in the neighborhood, especially on Sunday, raises some concern. Additionally, there's a note that there is no amenity space for residents, like park benches or something like that, but that those are conceptual comments to be taken into account for this project when it comes back for final.
I can address a couple of those. We did do an adequate public facility study, and the traffic study indicated that the levels of services of the impacts of the traffic at the intersection met the county's code for level service C, I think it is in this district or in this area. And then we are proposing a recreation area there on the south side of the building that's located on the east property line. We haven't defined that yet, but there will be some recreational component, swing set, picnic bench, or I'm sorry, whatever. Jim, zip, wait a minute. Go ahead, Jim.
Nobody puts swing sets in.
And not swing sets anymore. We for the concept plan, we intend to put as many recreational amenities on the site as we can. We actually, one thing to note is,
It's to the right of that.
to the right,
Oh, I see it,
yeah,
okay.
to the right.
So recreation area.
And then we also have some access to woodlands back there that even if the canopy covers, I think it's clear underneath there, so we think we can kind of push back in that area. Plus, we're actually proposing a building over there behind the house on Cox Neck Road that we're going to use as a field office for the management and also maintenance, but also we think we can use a part of that building as kind of a multi-function room, maybe for a gym or something like that. So we just haven't finalized the concept plan, but when we come back in for site plan, we'll have more details on what we're going to provide for that. No swing set. Or spinny thing.
No seesaws?
They're out too.
No seesaws.
Kids fall off swings.
We were okay with that. But not anymore. Can't.
Is there any public comment? There being none.
Madam Vice Chair, I just have one comment. I had personal experience with an elderly friend that, because of change in her life circumstances, was looking for a rental property and to downsize. She finally got into the Promenade after an 18-month wait. It took myself and some other friends some time to locate something temporary. That's where she wanted to be. Her driving capabilities are limited, so the Safeway, all of her usual stops along the way, the dry cleaner, the bank, et cetera. But that was an 18-month wait,
Yeah.
which was a little stressful after the loss of a spouse and some other things she went through. So I definitely have personally experienced through a friend the need for this type of housing.
Okay. There being no other questions or comments, can I get a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion on the parking resolution. Resolve the Planning Commission regarding the request by Postal Road LLC for approval of parking reduction from the required 108 spaces to 103, and is more particularly described in Planning and Zoning File SP 20-07-0059 hereby finds that the applicant has provided sufficient evidence warranting reduced parking requirements and hereby grants the requested parking reduction.
I have a question on form, I guess. Why would we be voting on the parking before we vote on the concept plan? I mean, we're voting on parking, but we're not voting on the concept plan. So what are you gonna
Well, you
park
couldn't approve the concept plan if
without the parking?
If you said we
Is this
want
a
108
chicken?
parking
Is
spaces.
this a chicken trying to cross the road?
Yeah.
Okay, just wondering. Okay, second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you want to continue?
Sure. Density increase. Resolved, Planning Commission regarding the request by Postal Road LLC for approval of an increased density under 18-1-28D2A-F to construct two 30-unit residential apartment buildings with a density of up to 20 units per acre, and is more particularly described in Planning and Zoning File SP 20-07-0059 hereby finds, 1, the site area does not exceed 5 acres. 2, architectural elevations have been provided are compatible with the surrounding development. 3, apartment development will provide workforce, age-restricted, or other moderately priced housing. 4, landscape is provided for screening to the adjacent single-family residences. And 5, a public meeting was conducted with your neighbors and hereby grants the increase of density up to 20 units per acre.
Second. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One more time.
You want me to go? I can't do all the talking today.
Sure you can.
Concept plan resolved, Planning Commission regarding the request for Postal Road LLC for concept plan approval for redevelopment of 6 parcels along Postal and Cox Creek Roads to include 2 30-unit residential apartment buildings and a utility building, and is more particularly described in Apartment Planning and Zoning File SP 20-07-0059 hereby finds the concept plan is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Queen Anne's County zoning and subdivision regulations, the 2010 comprehensive plan and the 2007 Chester-Stevensville Community Plan. The area in question is identified as being in the Chester-Stevensville Plan. I just said that. As redevelopment occurs along Postal Road, development standards should require structures to be brought closer to the street to provide a streetscape that offers a sense, and I think the applicant has met that. All 6 parcels are located in the Chester-Stevensville growth area. The project is served by public water and sewer. Existing wells will need to be filled and sealed in accordance with Environmental Health Department, and stormwater management will be provided on-site and are reviewed and approved by County Department of Public Works at the appropriate time. And hereby grants concept plan approval.
Second.
I'll second.
Kathy.
Lots of seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So be it.
Thank you very much.
Jim, let me ask you a question. If all goes as you expect, when would you expect to be renting?
So, I guess, based on the, I suspect by the time we get the engineering done, it'll take a while. And I'm not sure from the planning, they're really, it's October now, so November, I don't know if there's a planning commission in December, or if it's gonna be first of the year.
probably shooting for a January planning commission, early.
Oh,
So you might be breaking ground next spring?
Spring, summer, yeah, probably the best time to start, and then we'll probably be, it's probably gonna be end of 2021, 2022, just from the construction and development standpoint. So it's not a very large site, so, and with the access off Postal Road, it'll be, it should be pretty, but I'm thinking, yeah, timing-wise, planning commission, hopefully for end of this year, beginning of 2022, so.
Curious.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next on the agenda, legislation and legal matters.
Our legislative update is getting a little bit, the list is getting a little bit shorter. Our impact fee text amendment 20-03 will become effective on Saturday, which means for all intents and purposes, on Monday, that law goes into effect for us. The building code update, which is text amendment 20-11, will be voted upon by the commissioners at their meeting next Tuesday night, the 13th, as will the resource conservation area accessory dwelling unit text amendment 20-04. So they'll vote on those two, and they will the commissioners will hold a public hearing on the alcohol production facility text amendment 20-08. That's what I have.
I should mention a couple of things that are relevant to utility scale solar. First of all, the Public Service Commission has issued what they call a notice of intention to initiate rulemaking. And has invited comments from whomever may be interested. The tenor of the notice of intent might fairly be described as responding to complaints from the solar developers that their projects are being hampered by delay tactics at the county level and or inconsistent requirements from county to county. I suspect we'll see a push which may or may not be what's the word I want? Which may or may not be accepted by the Public Service Commission to have standardized setbacks, buffering, landscaping across the state. So they don't have to do, A in landscaping in Frederick County, and B in Queen Anne's County, and C in Wycomico County. It'll be one size fits all. I hope we can push back against that. I've drafted a letter on behalf of response on behalf of the county and Dorchester County. I'm waiting to hear back from Dorchester whether they agree with what I've said. Amy said that she likes what I had to say. Secondly, we received a notice from the Critical Area Commission recently that it has proposed regulations which would permit the siting of utility-scale solar projects, get ready for this, in the RCA without growth allocation. The RCA, of course, being the most restricted area within the critical area. I think 95% of the critical area in Queen Anne's County is RCA. Remember, there's IDA, well, maybe it's 90%, because then you have IDA, which is an intense development. For example, the Kent Narrows is IDA, and then LDA, limited development, which tends to be placed down around existing community subdivisions and so on. The new commercial and industrial uses in the RCA have been banned since 1989. There's a 15% lot coverage limitation. And if you want to engage in a new commercial or industrial use in the RCA and or exceed the lot coverage limitations and other environmental constraints, you would ask the commissioners for growth allocation. That is being proposed to be done away with when it comes to solar. We're responding to that too.
Are they limited to coverage?
Pardon me?
Are they limited to coverage?
Oh, the proposal, no, it's my understanding that the 15% will also not apply to the solar facility.
What's interesting about the way solar panels are calculated in terms of their lot coverage is that the panels are not calculated the circumferences of the posts. So in many, in many instances, the lot coverage for, say, a 5-acre solar project might be 1,000 square feet or less for the infrastructure itself, where the lot coverage catches up with the project is for all of the access roads and lay-down yards that are affiliated with the construction.
We fight for every square inch of
Are you
lot
sending-
coverage on
are you
everything
sending-
else, but not this.
When you send your letter, are you sending pictures of what some of the disaster areas look like?
It's
I
not
mean,
that
show and tell helps a lot.
I think it's fairly clear that there is a major push at the state level and from the solar developers lobby to smooth, the rough waters
Yeah, but that's really not the
for
avenue to go.
increased solar development.
Wow.
All we can do is try and push back and see if we can convince the powers that be that, number one, all size doesn't fit all, and two, that they really should not completely ignore or ignore at all the local zoning and planning prerogatives that the annotated code has given to the counties.
Yeah, would,
It's sort of a left hand, they've given us something with the right hand, but taking it away with the left.
would Washington County have restricted critical area?
I'm sorry?
Would Washington County have restricted critical area?
No.
So it's really like our county and
I don't
Anne
think
Arundel
Washington
and-
County has any critical area because I don't think the Potomac River is tidal up that far.
So it's really just the ones along the bay?
Yeah, I can't think of any critical area. There'd be some in PG County. There may or may not be any in Montgomery County. I don't think there would be in
Why do they want to
Montgomery.
pick on us?
Easy picking.
Because that's where most of the solar is going, is Eastern Shore. I'm not even aware that there's much activity in southern Maryland. There may be, I'm not sure. Frederick County is getting a lot of attention, and Frederick County is pushing back very hard. They've recently appealed an adverse decision on a solar project to the full Public Service Commission. Washington County, of course, took it on the chin in the Perennial Solar case. And other than that, almost all the significant ones have been on the Eastern Shore.
Can you share with us the Perennial Solar?
Sure. I can send you all a copy of that. By the way, I just heard the other day that someone noticed that there's been a recent addition to the PGMQ. PGM is the regional authority, I suppose you might say, for managing the grid in an area basically from New York to North Carolina and west to Ohio. And if you want to add energy to the grid in that area, you have to apply to PJM. And you get in the queue. And you establish your queue position by making this application. And then studies begin as to whether that injection of electrons into the grid is one possible, can be done reliably, safely, and so on and so forth. A recent queue position was established for I'll have to look up the substations in Queen Anne's County, 400 megawatts of solar. That would be the biggest by a factor of 2 of anything we've seen so far. So get ready for that one.
Chris did submit comments to the Critical Area Commission about their proposed legislation, received comments in return, and then returned comments.
Yeah,
So-
they're not buying my act at the Critical Area Commission.
But, Chris is definitely a leader in the state on this topic, with his vast experience on the Eastern Shore. So we're lucky to have him representing us with the state.
I'm a leader so far on the losing side.
That's not true.
What have we won so far?
It was the Morgnac case.
Well, Morgnac.
Or not, yeah, not Morgnac, the
Yeah, Mills Branch.
Mills Branch case in Kent County, so.
Very frustrating that the policy initiatives at the state level for renewable energy are bulldozing local planning prerogatives. It's frustrating.
Okay,
More staff items?
yeah, let's do staff items instead of taking a break, if that's okay with everybody. Okay,
You're in receipt of a letter from the Kent Narrows Development Foundation.
Yep.
Relative to the Kent Narrows Community Plan. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention. The letter has also been conveyed to Lauren Good, our consultant, and will be likewise taken into consideration. And I'm sure she'll be eager to ask your opinion on this input when she next addresses you. So, and then the other staff item is a reminder that our next meeting is November the 12th, and that will be held in the Liberty Building. So if you could report there for our 8:45 meeting on the 12th of November.
okay, we used to get a written copy of what's going on in the planning and zoning department from Mike every month.
Department reports, the monthly reports, yes.
Can we resume that?
Sure.
They're not always ready, so
Yeah.
alternates months when I put them in.
Yeah, but you'll continue to receive those.
Anything else?
Ms. Mordock, can you give us an update on where we are with the Wallace Montgomery update for us? I was sort of expecting them to come in with the periodic updates of their progress, especially with, grading our homework, et cetera,
Yes.
and hopefully laying out some plans for public times of interaction and participation in the process. Can you give us a sense on where we are with that ongoing planning?
The public meetings are being worked out in terms of how those are going to be scheduled, where and how, whether they will be completely virtual or have an on-site component. And our website should be online. I had expected it to be online by now, but it is not. So I will circle back around to our consultant for a more thorough update.
I remember them in their initial introduction, I guess, 2-3 months ago, had sort of laid out that they were almost coming in monthly or every other month to give us updates. And I want to know where and how that process seems to have slipped.
Oh,
Would you follow up with
I
that,
will.
please? Thank you
I
kindly.
will.
Any other miscellaneous staff items or questions for staff? Okay, public comments? Okay, there being none. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Teddy? Teddy? Meeting adjourned.